Jake stepped out of the foster care home, his small bag slung over his shoulder. At 18, he was now on his own, with no family, no money, and no place to call home. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on him as he walked down the busy street, rain soaking through his thin jacket. The sounds of the city faded into the background of his thoughts. He had nowhere to go, no one to turn to. After hours of wandering, he stumbled upon an old abandoned shack on the outskirts of town. It wasn't much, just a crumbling wooden shell with a leaky roof, but it was shelter. He pushed open the creaky door and stepped inside, the musty air filling his lungs. Exhausted, he lay down on a pile of old blankets and stared at the ceiling. "Is this what my life has come to?" he whispered to himself, his voice trembling. As sleep overtook him, he couldn't shake the feeling of despair. But what happened next would change everything. The next morning, Jake was jolted awake by the sound of footsteps crunching on the gravel outside. His heart raced as he quickly hid behind a stack of dusty crates peering through a crack. An old man entered the shack, his weathered face illuminated by a sliver of sunlight. He looked around with a calm expression, then noticed Jake's bag, on the floor. "Hello, is someone here?" he called out, his voice steady but kind. Jake hesitated, his breath shallow, then slowly emerged from his hiding spot. "I'm sorry," he stammered. "I didn't mean to trespass. I'll leave right away." The old man smiled gently, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Wait. Don't go. You look like you could use some help." Jake froze, stunned by the unexpected kindness. In a world where he'd braced himself for rejection, he found compassion instead. The old man introduced himself as Henry and handed Jake a piece of bread and a warm blanket from a worn satchel. As they sat on the creaky floor, Henry asked, "What's your story, son?" Jake swallowed hard, his throat tight. "I'm Jake. I just got out of foster care. I have nowhere to go." Henry nodded, his gaze warm and understanding. "I know what it's like to feel alone. I lost my family a long time ago. But I've learned that even in the darkest times, there's always a glimmer of hope. Have you ever felt lost and alone? How did you find your way?" As the rain tapped against the shack's roof, Henry shared his life story. He had once been a successful businessman, with a big house and a loving family, but a string of misfortunes, bankruptcy, illness, and loss, left him with nothing. Yet instead of sinking into bitterness, he found solace in helping others. "Kindness," Henry said, his voice firm with conviction, "is the true measure of wealth." Jake listened, a lump forming in his throat. For the first time in years, he felt seen, understood. Henry looked at him, a spark of determination in his eyes. "I see potential in you, Jake. You're not alone anymore." Jake wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at him. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Henry smiled softly. "Because everyone deserves a chance, and I believe in paying it forward." Just when Jake thought all hope was lost, he found a friend. But could he really trust this stranger's generosity? With Henry's encouragement, Jake began to rebuild his life. Henry pointed him toward odd jobs, mowing lawns, delivering groceries, painting fences, and Jake threw himself into the work, saving every penny he earned. But something else started to shift inside him. Inspired by Henry's philosophy, he began helping others too. One day, he carried heavy bags for an elderly woman struggling down the street. Another time, he fixed a broken gate for a single mom. Each act of kindness filled him with a purpose he'd never known, a quiet joy that pushed back the loneliness. Months passed, and the shack became more than just a shelter. It became a home, shared with Henry's stories and laughter. But then, tragedy struck. Henry fell ill, his strength fading fast. Jake stayed by his side, bringing him water, holding his hand through the long nights. In Henry's final moments, he gripped Jake's hand weakly and whispered, "I'm proud of you, Jake. You've come a long way. Keep spreading kindness." Tears streamed down Jake's face as Henry slipped away, leaving him alone again, or so he thought. What's the kindest thing someone has ever done for you? After Henry's passing, Jake found a note tucked into the old man's satchel. Henry had left him the shack and a small sum of money he'd saved over the years, but more than that, he'd left Jake a legacy of kindness. Overwhelmed, Jake sat in the silence, the weight of loss pressing down on him. For a moment he felt like giving up. Everything good seemed to slip away. But then he remembered Henry's words, the belief in second chances, the power of human connection. With renewed resolve, he decided to honor Henry's memory. He used the money to transform the shack into a community center, a simple but welcoming place where orphans, runaways, and anyone in need could find food, shelter, and support. Day by day, people came, some to eat, some to talk, some just to sit and feel less alone. From a place of despair, the shack became a beacon of hope, all because of one act of kindness that rippled outward. Standing in the community center one evening, Jake looked at a faded photo of Henry he'd pinned to the wall. The room buzzed softly with voices, laughter, quiet conversations, the clink of plates. He smiled, a tear slipping down his cheek. "Thank you, Henry, for showing me the way," he said quietly. "I'll make sure your legacy lives on." And so Jake's story reminds us that even in our darkest moments, a single act of kindness can change everything. As the sun set outside, casting a warm glow through the shack's windows, one truth shone clear. Kindness is the light that guides us through the darkness. If this story moved you, tap the heart and share it to inspire someone today.